Today we're talking about parts of the guitar. You can see these parts labeled on the different guitars on pages 6 and 7 of your book. Let me just review them with you though in this video. If you think about the guitar like you would a human body, it makes it a little easier to remember the main parts of the guitar. This big section is simply referred to as the body of the guitar. It has the top and the bottom, and it's just simply referred to as the body. This at the other end of the guitar is referred to as the head or headstock of the guitar. It also has some other specific names. For instance, on a classical guitar, they've cut a section out so you can wrap the strings around the tuning pegs. This is referred to on a classical guitar oftentimes as a peg head. They used to simply push wooden pegs in that they would put the strings on to tune them. And so that's how it got that name, peg head. But still the name head or headstock is involved. The piece that connects the body with the head is referred to as the neck. So the three main parts of the guitar you can remember very simply by just thinking of your own body. Of course, you know the strings, they're required to get the sound and the notes that we play. What we have to push down to make the different notes on the neck is a little piece of wood. On this guitar you can see it's darker. This little piece of wood is referred to as the fingerboard or fretboard. That's where you push your fingers down to make the various chords and notes. They call it a fretboard because of these little wires. These little metal wires are called frets, and that helps us to make the tone for each note in perfect pitch. The frets are at exactly the right distance from the bridge so that they will make the right pitch when we push them down to play the different notes on the guitar. That brings me to the bridge. The strings are connected to the guitar with this piece of wood referred to as the bridge. You can see on the classical guitar the strings are just tied on. There are other ways to connect the strings on steel string guitars and electric guitars, sometimes using push pegs, sometimes you just feed them through the bridge. But in this case on a classical guitar you can see they're just tied. This little part of the bridge is very important. The piece that the strings actually sit on before they're connected or tied down to the bridge is referred to as the saddle. Think about riding a horse. You sit on the saddle, it keeps you from falling off the horse. The strings sit on a saddle that gives them the perfect pitch when they're tuned up properly. On the other end of the guitar, the strings sit on this piece of plastic. Sometimes it's made out of metal, sometimes wood. It's referred to as the nut. I don't know what nut thought that up. But this is the other part that's very important because the strings vibrate between the nut and the saddle. That's what determines the pitch of each string, that distance. That's how the strings work. The sound hole is important. This is where the sound comes out. The sound when you play a string or strum a chord reverberates inside the body and then is ejected here at the sound hole. That's how we hear the different notes and the different chords clearly. Around the sound hole you have this pretty decoration called the rosette. Now it doesn't serve any real purpose other than to just make the guitar more beautiful, and it's called the rosette. Rosette. Those are the primary parts of the guitar that we will need to know for this class, and there'll be other parts that we'll talk about. For instance, this narrow part on the body is referred to as the waist, just like where you put your belt on to hold your pants up. This is the waist of the guitar. We'll have other pieces and parts that we'll talk about, but that's the main ones I wanted to cover in this lesson.